When I made a decision to claim my identity as an adult adoptee, I made a decision to go all in. I knew that I needed a plan and I knew that I needed to know where I was going, but more importantly, I needed to know where to start. Hi, everybody. Kevin Barheit here. Thanks for tuning in. When we make a plan, we need to make an assessment. We need to make an inventory. And for me as an adoptee, I needed to make a deep personal inventory about where I was, where I'd been, and where I was now. Because there's a big difference between goals and dreams. And dreams have their own time and their own place, their own lifespan. I read in the local paper today about a surgeon. He had passed away, but in his life he had helped thousands of people, thousands of families. And in his last days, he wrote some notes that his family found about his dreams. And his dreams had changed over the years from his 20s and 30s and 40s, 50s, and 60s. And now in his late 80s, he wrote about his dreams were more simple. He dreamt about having a safe trip to the bathroom. He dreamt about having a good night's sleep. And then he wrote, "But my greatest dream is the most wonderful dream of dying peacefully in my bed with all my loved ones at my side." And that was his last wish. And that happened for him. And that happens for some of us. And many of us have dreams that change over time, but as an adoptee, I know I and many of us have dreams that they stick with us. My dream has always been the same. It's always been the same and it always will be the same. My dream, my ultimate dream, is to have my mother hold my hand. I know that's a dream that won't come true, but it's my fantasy, and it's even beyond a fantasy for me. For me, I guess it's like heaven. I'll never have that dream, and I'll never have that physician's dream because I'll never have my family all by my side. My family will always be fragmented. But dreams and fantasies and heaven is very different than goals and strategies and how to get there. So as I decide to go all in to claim my identity as an adult adoptee, I know that I need to take that inventory. And I know that each and every one of us will be at different stages of our lives, different times, different places, and we'll all have a different inventory to take, but the important thing is to take that inventory. The important thing is each one of us needs to take that assessment. If I took that assessment when I was 9 years old, my only goal would have been to hold my mother's hand. That would have been the only ultimate goal. As a teenager, that goal changed. My assessment would have changed. My life was harder. I felt different about myself and I felt different about the world around me. My goal then would have been to meet my mother, to have my mother find me or me to find her. We never found each other. She never found me. I never found her. I gave up on those goals. Those goals changed. My assessment changed. And my hopes changed. Maybe I'll see her in a store somewhere. Maybe, like we all do, I'll look for her and she'll be looking for me, and maybe we'll just lock eyes and we'll know. You're mine. I'm yours. Maybe that'll happen. So even though my core dream stayed the same, wanting to hold my mother's hand and be with her, that fantasy stayed. That vision of heaven was always mine and would always be mine, and I would never relinquish it. My assessment of reality changed. My assessment of who I was changed. And my goals have changed. And this is what my assessment looked like. This is what my inventory was. I will never meet my mother. I may never know who my father was. I will never be able to touch, see, or hear the people who created me. I will never know where I came from. I will never be able to embrace them, and they will never be able to embrace me. Those are my facts. And these are also my truths. I have anger. I have been hurt. I know what it's like to be abandoned, and I know how it feels to have no worth, to feel like I have no value. And as I continue my inventory, these are also my truths. My adoptive mother does love me. My adoptive father, before he passed away, did love me. My wife loves me. My children love me. My grandchildren adore me, and I adore all of them. These are also my truths. And once this inventory starts to add up, it becomes something that I can make a plan from. It shows me all of my joys and all of my pains, all of who I was and who I am, where I came from, how I got here, who I love and who loves me, all the hopes and all the dreams and all the sadness and all the fears. It all adds up. And when this inventory is complete, I have the basis for a plan how to move forward to become the person that I want to be and to claim my identity as an adoptee. And now it's time to ask myself questions. Some of these questions are going to be the hard questions. What truths do we want to make for ourselves now? What life do we want? Who are we? Are we angry? Do we still need to hold on to that anger? Does it serve us? Does it protect us? Or are we ready to let go of that anger and move past it? Are we hurt? Are we still carrying that hurt? Is it making us sick? Are we full of anxiety and are we full of fear? Do we have a sense of sadness? But do we also have a sense of hope? Do we have joy in our life and are we ready to manifest that joy in other areas of our lives? Can we, where we are right now, find a place of joy and acceptance and happiness with our adoptive families? Can we do that with our first families, whether we even know them or not? Is it possible? Is it something we can strive for? You see, we want our goals to be realistic, so we have to be honest about where we're going and where we're starting. Are we sleeping well? Do we wake up with night trauma? Maybe we need help. Maybe we need to reach out to therapists. Maybe we need to reach out to people to help us guide us through that pain and that trauma. Does our body support us or fight against us? Are we constantly in a state of fight or flight? Or are we centered? Are we meditating? Are we in a state of peace? Because it's at this point that we have to learn to care for ourselves like our life depended on it, because it does. Processing the trauma of adoption is different for each and every one of us. My process of dealing with my abandonment is going to be different than yours. And at different times in my life, it will definitely be at different stages. But I have to know that wherever you are is got to be okay. Because that's where you are and that's what you need to do. I was living in Brooklyn during 9/11, and in the days and weeks afterwards, there was so much trauma. There was so much struggle. There was so much sadness. But the one thing that always sticks with me is I remember as we took the subways back and forth to work and to home and to shopping and tried to get on with our lives and tried to just hold on through that. I remember the subway cars were eerily quiet. No one really spoke. No one dared to really speak above a whisper. And I'd be sitting there, we could sit there on the trains, and for no reason whatsoever, it seemed, someone would just start crying. Maybe it would be me. And no one would say a word. No one would even glance. Everyone let everyone be wherever they needed to be at that point in time to process their trauma, the trauma that we had all experienced in whatever way was necessary. And if you needed to be quiet, not say a word, that's what you needed to do. And if you needed to cry, then that's what you needed to do. And if you needed to shout at the sky, that's what you needed to do. Everyone accepted where everyone else was at. And I learned so much from that. I learned that not only do I need to really be aware that everyone else has a right to be wherever they are in processing their trauma, I have a right to be wherever I am in processing my trauma. And it's a gift that I can give to others, but it's a gift that I must and I need to give and keep for myself. Because as I make these goals and as I make this strategy on how to go from traumatized to living a full life, from abandoned to feeling centered, from being of low worth to being of great worth, I can't do this alone. I need you. And I know you need me. I need to know that I can heal physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And as I do this, as I reach out to other people, and as I reach out to therapists, and as I gather the people around me that do love me and do care about me, I make my own family. I make my own community, and I grab onto that community with loving arms. And I hold it tight, and I care for it, and I nurture it, and I welcome it, and I want it. And as we move forward together, sometimes haltingly, sometimes with great gusto and courage, we make progress, and that progress turns into a spiritual centeredness, an emotional centeredness, a mental centeredness and a physical centeredness. Maybe I will sit in heaven and hold my mother's hand one day. Maybe my dreams will come true, but I know for a fact my goals are coming true. Our goals together can come true. We can heal, we can progress, we can become whole. As I gain confidence, I know that I can go all in because we can go all in. I know that I can have a strategy, I can do an inventory, and I can make and achieve these goals because I know we can do that together. Next week, I'll be focusing on how we and how I can keep those goals and that strategy and that direction that we're going flexible as we move forward and as we grow and as we change. Please don't tune out just yet. I've got a little sneak peek coming for you. Don't forget, please subscribe if you haven't done so. Like the video, share this with others, leave some comments below. Looking forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for tuning in. Take care. I think the fact that you and I are sitting here today with two extraordinarily different stories.
Very extraordinary.
The important thing is to share the stories.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, because, a lot of times we think that our positions are so unique. But I think it's funny because do you remember being a kid and just thinking everybody grew up this way?
Right.
Because you had nothing to compare it to.
That's right.
And you dare not ask, hey, does your mom do this or your father do this? And then as you get older, hopefully you have the fortune of going to friends' houses or family members' houses, and you realize, okay, not everybody does things the same way. And I think that's when we start to grow and understand that there are differences and you share it and you can find commonalities.